The planes still take off. Fewer seats are filled. The boardwalk lights still glow. Fewer footsteps follow. Hotels drop rates. Rooms stay empty. This isn't a storm, it's a slow fade. Not headlines, habits, not panic, avoidance. Tourism, the lifeblood of entire states, is running thin. International travelers hesitate. Airlines pull capacity. Hotels and restaurants ride out longer off-seasons that never quite end. Visa delays, cost shocks, safety worries, insurance bills. No one budgeted for. That's how a destination slips, quietly, then all at once. Who's already feeling it? Who's next in line? Stay with me, because these 10 places have more than tourists to lose. Number 10. California. Golden sunsets, iconic highways, blockbuster dreams. But behind the postcard, a storm is brewing. California, one of the world's most visited destinations, is starting to slip, and not quietly. International travel is drying up, especially from Canada. Its second largest source of visitors. Cities that once thrived on non-stop tourism, San Francisco, Anaheim, and parts of Los Angeles, are now reporting fewer visitors, softer hotel revenue, and more vacancy signs on prime streets. The numbers are real. Even after more than $157 billion in tourism spending last year, 2025 is showing the first honest pullback, early but unmistakable. And here's the twist. The slowdown is landing just as the state's cost of living hits all-time highs, squeezing margins from both sides. Theme parks, beach towns, and wine country can only hold out so long without global demand at their backs. Is the California dream starting to fade? Number 9. Nevada. The casino lights still burn, but the crowds are thinner than they've been in years. Suites sit untouched. Buffets that once overflowed now run half-empty or go dark entirely. Something is shifting in Nevada, and it's not just bad luck at the tables. Las Vegas, the engine of the state, just logged one of its sharpest tourism drops in over a decade. Strip visitation is down more than 6%. Gaming revenue is slipping. For most places, that's a bad quarter. For Nevada, it's a warning siren, because this is one of the most tourism-dependent states in America. When the flights slow, everything slows. Restaurants, shows, conventions, tips, shifts, overtime. Even housing cools as investors step back and short-term rentals sit vacant. And here's the real danger. This doesn't look like a blip. It looks like the start of a reset. Fewer impulse trips, pricier airfare, tighter wallets, and competition from cheaper destinations. What happens to a state when its main attraction loses its shine? And what happens to everyone who built their future around it? Number 8. New York. The skyline still stuns. The lights still shine. But look closer, and you'll see something else. Quiet streets where tourists used to swarm. New York City, once the beating heart of U.S. international tourism, is starting to slip. In 2025, officials cut their forecast from roughly 67 million expected visitors to about 64 million, a 3 million drop that erases billions in spending and momentum. 2 million of those missing travelers are international, small in headcount, huge in impact, because overseas visitors are only about 20% of arrivals, but drive roughly 50% of total visitor spending. For a city built on global demand, that's a gut punch. The causes stack up. Higher costs, a stronger dollar, persistent inflation abroad, and rising concerns about safety and cleanliness, all feeding into weaker bookings and thinner crowds at hotels, museums, and Broadway. When those dollars vanish, jobs do too. Tourism-dependent roles, from hotel staff to tour guides and retail, face reduced hours and layoffs as the city braces for an estimated $4 billion hit tied to fewer foreign visitors in 2025. And lower tourism doesn't just dent businesses. It pressures tax revenues that help fund services, infrastructure, and programs the city relies on every day. New York is still iconic, still powerful, but the cracks are growing. Number 7, Florida. Palm trees still sway. Theme parks still sparkle, but behind the sunshine, something's gone quiet. Florida, a titan of American tourism, is suddenly on unstable ground. The state leans heavily on international visitors, especially Canadians, and in 2025, that pipeline faltered sharply as forward bookings from Canada to the U.S. collapsed by 70%, plus through the spring and summer window. Florida is feeling an outsized sting within that slump as carriers cut seats to Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and other hubs, signaling a Florida-specific pullback in demand. This isn't a dip. It's a free fall in intent to travel that translates into real money and real jobs at risk. Industry estimates show that even a 10% Canadian tourism reduction can mean a $2.1 billion spending hit and roughly 14,000 jobs, illustrating the scale of exposure when a core market pulls back. Early 2025 reports already flagged weaker international arrivals despite steady domestic visitation, underscoring the growing reliance on U.S. travelers to plug a widening gap. Miami, Orlando, Clearwater, Naples, all feeling it as resorts discount to fill rooms, restaurants shorten hours, and airlines trim capacity into key Florida airports when advanced demand softens. This isn't just about vacations, it's the ripple effect. When international tourism shrinks, Florida's broader economy takes a hit across hospitality, transport, retail, and housing, especially in markets built around snowbird and long-stay visitors. The harsh truth? Florida has no real backup when a major feeder market stalls. This state is built on sunshine, fantasy, and tourism dollars. When one falters, everything else starts to crack. Number 6. Hawaii. From the air, it looks like paradise. Turquoise water, lush mountains, golden beaches. On the ground, the cracks show. In 2025, visitor numbers have fallen sharply, especially from Japan and Canada. And it's not just fewer people, it's fewer dollars. Average visitor spending is down across nearly every major island, while hotel occupancy on Oahu and Maui has slipped to lows not seen since the pandemic. Why the pullback? Rising airfare, stricter vacation rental rules, the lingering impact of the Maui wildfires, and growing local resistance to over-tourism that's reshaping where and whether people stay. Hawaii is fighting on two fronts. Demand is weakening, and capacity is shrinking. With tourism driving more than 20% of the state's economy, there's no real plan B. The risk isn't only economic, it's cultural and environmental. Number 5, Louisiana. The music still echoes, the food still draws crowds, but tourism is stalling, especially in New Orleans, where international travel has dropped more than 20%. Hotels are reporting sharp declines. Festivals are seeing fewer out-of-state visitors. And in the French Quarter, too many storefronts sit empty. Safety concerns, extreme heat, inflation, and hurricane risk are pushing travelers elsewhere, sometimes for good. Tourism supports over 200,000 jobs across Louisiana. When those start to vanish, the shock doesn't stop at the city line. Restaurants, venues, airlines, shops, and entire neighborhoods feel it. The culture remains unmatched, but the clock is ticking. Number 4, Arizona. From afar, it looks like a desert success story. Sunny skies, booming cities, endless trails. But in 2025, visitor spending is slipping, and the cracks are showing. International tourism has taken a clear hit, especially from Canada, where forward bookings to U.S. destinations, including Arizona, plunged more than 70% for the April-September window, a blow to a state that relies on winter snowbirds and long-stay visitors. Nationally, the U.S. is on track for a rare decline in international visitor spending in 2025, with a projected $12.5 billion drop, pressure that filters directly into Arizona's hotels, restaurants, and attractions. Record heat waves, wildfire disruptions, water constraints, and pricier airfare are compounding the pullback. Phoenix and much of the Southwest are entering uncharted territory on extreme heat. with prolonged stretches of 110 degrees Fahrenheit plus days that make outdoor travel dangerous and force closures at parks and trail systems. This summer, Arizona has also been battling the Dragon Bravo fire in Grand Canyon National Park, the largest U.S. wildfire so far this year, underscoring how climate and access risks can suppress visitation and shorten trip itineraries. Arizona's bet on hospitality and real estate is wobbling. When peak season demand softens, construction pauses, STRs sit empty, and resorts scale back to protect margins. Even as the state posted strong tourism tallies in 2023, the 2025 setup looks tougher. Weak foreign inflows, heat-driven itinerary cuts, and fire-related closures are real headwinds to spending growth. And the state's crown jewels, Grand Canyon, Sedona, Saguaro Country, are under mounting stress, prompting tighter restrictions, intermittent closures, and operational limits during extreme heat and active fire incidents. The question isn't whether Arizona remains iconic. It does. It's how a tourism model built on outdoor allure adapts when the outdoors itself becomes the risk. Number 3, Illinois. Chicago's skyline still dazzles, but tourism is sliding. International travel is down roughly 14%, and growing fears about safety are pushing would-be visitors to cheaper, quieter alternatives. Statewide, the post-pandemic rebound has stalled. Historic sites, festivals, and Route 66 stops are struggling to draw the crowds they once did. As group tours thin out and road trippers cut trips short, high taxes and rising prices make Illinois a tougher sell, especially next to lower-cost neighbors that offer similar experiences without the sticker shock. The result? Tourism jobs are disappearing, hotel nights are softer, and the momentum that powered Illinois' visitor economy is fading. Chicago remains iconic. The state's heritage is rich, but the gap between reputation and reality is widening, and it's starting to show in the numbers. Number 2, Missouri. From riverboats to barbecue, Missouri built its brand on experience. But Branson's theaters are emptier. St. Louis is losing conventions. And Kansas City's new airport hasn't delivered the surge it promised. Visitor spending is slipping, and the old, reliable drive-in tourism is drying up as gas prices climb. Small towns feel it first. Fewer weekend guests, quieter main streets, thinner receipts, longer, slow seasons. Missouri's draw hasn't disappeared, but the margin for its visitor economy is shrinking, and the gap between expectation and reality is widening. Number 1, Texas. The rodeos still roar. The festivals still post the flyers. The barbecue lines still snake down the block. But the crowds? They're thinning. Austin's hotel occupancy fell hard this spring, double-digit down with weak weekday business travel and softer weekends even as room supply keeps climbing. San Antonio's Riverwalk is quieter, with fewer tours and trimmed hours as advanced demand softens. And in Houston, the engine of conventions and corporate trips, international travel has sputtered in 2025, pressuring the very segment that fills midweek rooms and restaurants. Extreme heat, hurricanes, and rising costs are changing how visitors see Texas. Shorter stays, more last-minute cancellations, and fewer long-haul trips. Even small towns feel it when drive-in tourism dips and event calendars don't convert to overnight bookings. Tourism helped build modern Texas, propping up jobs from concierges to caterers to convention crews. If this slide continues, it won't just dent a season. It could start to unwind the model.